keys to the dev environment. Me and the boys are setting up the new repository, and we keep hitting a permission wall. That's because it's a segmented network, Trevor, I said, not looking up from my screen. It's air-gapped for a reason. That's where the live trading algorithms live. If you introduce a bug there, we lose real money. Millions, in seconds. Yeah, guardrails, I get it. He waved a hand dismissively. But we need full access to refactor the security modules. Bryce wants single sign-on for everyone. It's too much friction right now. I froze. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Single sign-on for the core trading engine. We want to let interns access the algo with the same password they use for their email. It's about velocity, Naomi. Friction kills innovation. Incompetence kills liquidity, Trevor, I shot back. I can't give you root access. Compliance Policy Section 9. Only the chief architect can authorize changes to the security architecture. And since you're the director of innovation and not the architect, you don't get the keys. Trevor's face turned a blotchy shade of pink. I don't think you understand the hierarchy here. Bryce put me in charge. Then have Bryce send me a signed order overriding the compliance protocol, I said, finally turning to face him. Put it in writing. Explicitly state that you are bypassing the established security architecture against the advice of the lead developer. Trevor sneered. You're just trying to hoard information. You're terrified we're going to find out your genius code is just a bunch of if-then statements. Get the signature, Trevor. He stormed out. I knew what was coming. They wouldn't sign it. Signing it created a paper trail of liability. Instead, they would try to go around me. They would try to brute force the permissions or bully the junior IT staff. I opened my encrypted log file. Date, October 14th. Event, Trevor requested removal of air gap and implementation of insecure auth protocols. Action, denied based on Compliance Policy 9. Note, they are actively seeking to alter the fundamental security protocols. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my hands were steady. I felt like a seismologist watching the needles start to quiver before the big one. They were poking the bear. They were scratching at the door of Appendix D. Later that afternoon, I saw the IT manager, a nervous kid named Kevin, coming out of Bryce's office looking pale. I intercepted him by the water cooler. Kevin, I said softly. He jumped. Hey, Naomi, just grabbing water. What did they ask you to do? He looked around, checking for Trevor. They want me to reset the admin privileges on the main server. They want me to create a backdoor admin account for Trevor. Did you do it? Not yet, I told them I need a ticket for that. It takes 24 hours. Good man, I said. Kevin, listen to me. Whatever you do, document it. Email them confirming the request. Forward the replies to your personal email. Do not go to jail for these idiots. He nodded, terrified. Is it bad? It's catastrophic, I said. But don't worry, just delay them. I'm handling it. I wasn't handling it in the way he thought. I wasn't saving the ship. I was checking the lifeboats. I spent the rest of the week auditing my own code, ensuring that the timestamp on my original source files was indisputable. I verified the Git history. I made sure that every line of code I wrote before Bryce arrived was tagged and hashed. They were treating the firm like a sandbox, throwing sand everywhere, oblivious to the fact that they were blinding themselves. I sat in my windowless office, the hum of the servers vibrating through the floor, and waited. I was a spider in the center of a web they were trying to sweep away, but they didn't realize the web was structural. Tear it down and the roof comes with it. It started with a stutter. Not a literal noise, but a financial one. The Arcturus engine, which usually executed trades with the smooth, lethal precision of a sniper, began to miss. Trevor and his Tiger team of developers, 3 guys he poached from a failing crypto exchange, had managed to deploy a patch. They bypassed Kevin in IT by threatening to fire him, and they pushed code directly to the production environment on a Tuesday morning. Rule number 1 of algo trading: you never deploy on a Tuesday morning when the market is opening. You deploy on Friday night and spend the weekend praying. I was watching the real-time dashboard on my second monitor. It was a habit I couldn't break. Usually, the execution latency line was a flat, green hum at the bottom of the graph. At 9:32 a.m., it spiked, just a little. A millisecond here, 2 milliseconds there. To a human, a millisecond is nothing. To the market, it's the difference between eating lunch and being lunch. The P&L profit and loss ticker, which usually ticked up in steady, rhythmic increments, started to jaggedly sway. We were losing the arbitrage spread. The engine was seeing the opportunity, but by the time Trevor's bloated, refactored code waded through the new unnecessary logic layers to pull the trigger, the price had moved. By 11 o'clock a.m., the firm was down $400,000. By 2 o'clock p.m., we were down $1.2 million. The glass walls of Bryce's office were vibrating. I could see him screaming into his phone. Trevor was pacing outside, gesturing wildly to his team, who were frantically typing on their MacBooks like they were hacking the mainframe in a bad 90s movie. At 3:30 p.m., the summons came. Bryce's assistant, a woman who looked like she aged 5 years in the last 5 weeks, appeared at my door. They need you in the conference room. Now. I walked in slowly. The air in the room smelled of stale coffee and fear. Bryce was sweating through his bespoke shirt. Trevor looked like he wanted to vomit. Naomi, Bryce barked. Not even looking at me. Fix it. Fix what? I asked, taking a seat at the far end of the table. I folded my hands on the mahogany. I thought we were pivoting to the new stack. Isn't this the disruption you wanted? Don't get cute with me. Bryce slammed his hand on the table. The latency is through the roof. We're bleeding cash. Trevor says it's your legacy code conflicting with the new modules. I looked at Trevor. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Is that right, Trevor? My code, which hasn't been touched in 6 months, suddenly decided to conflict today? The exact day you pushed your optimization patch? Your code is spaghetti. Trevor snapped, desperate to deflect. It's not compatible with modern libraries. It's rejecting our API calls. You built it to be proprietary and hostile. I built it to be fast, I corrected, and secure. You're trying to bolt a spoiler onto a rocket ship with duct tape, and you're surprised the aerodynamics are off. Just turn off the old security checks. Trevor yelled, that's what's slowing it down. The system is checking credentials every microsecond because of your paranoia. If we disable the internal handshake, we regain the speed. The room went silent. Bryce looked at Trevor, then at me. Can we do that, can you? I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm. Technically, yes, you can strip out the internal verification protocols. It would act like a turbo boost. For about 10 minutes. Then do it, Bryce ordered. I won't, I said. This is insubordination. Bryce roared. No, it's risk management. If you remove those protocols, you leave the engine open to injection attacks. And more importantly, I paused, weighing the words, you fundamentally alter the architecture of the system. I don't care about the architecture. I care about the P&L. Bryce stood up, his face red. Trevor, do you know how to disable it? Trevor hesitated. I think so, but I need the master encryption key. Naomi has it. Bryce turned his glare on me. Give him the key, Naomi. No, you're fired if you don't. If you fire me, I walk out with the knowledge of where the bodies are buried. And if you force that change, you're on your own. Bryce grit his teeth. Give him the key. I stood up. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small silver USB drive, not the important one, just a dummy drive with some config files. This isn't the key, I said, but it contains the documentation on why you shouldn't do this. If you want to ruin this company, you'll have to figure out how to break the lock yourself. I'm not handing you the crowbar. I walked out. They didn't fire me. They were too scared. But I knew what they were going to do. They were desperate. Desperation makes people stupid. They were going to try to crack the security shell themselves. They were going to try to bypass the fundamental security protocols. I went back to my desk and opened my monitoring suite. I wasn't watching the market anymore. I was watching the system logs. I was watching for the specific signature of a forced entry. They were about to rewrite the locks on my house. They didn't realize that the moment they did, the deed to the house would legally transfer to me. I watched the screen. 4:15 p.m. The market was closed, but the engineers were still typing. The clean rewrite was failing quietly, drowning in errors. They were about to do something loud to fix it. The break-in didn't happen with a bang. There were no sirens, no shattered glass. It happened with a line of text on a terminal window at 7:42 p.m. on a Thursday. I had stayed late, ostensibly to monitor the transition, but really, I was holding a vigil. I knew they were working on the back end. I could see the server load spiking as Trevor and his goons threw brute force scripts against the internal firewalls. They were trying to strip out the authentication layer, the internal handshake I had mentioned. It was the digital equivalent of removing the load-bearing beams to make the living room look bigger. I had a script running on my local machine, a simple listener loop designed to ping the core security kernel every 10 seconds. Ping, secure, ping, secure, ping, secure, then the text changed color. Red, ping, alert, kernel integrity compromised, security protocol for bypassed, unauthorized writes detected in root directory. They did it, they actually did it. To fix their latency issues, they had disabled the core security checks. They had altered the fundamental security protocols without the express written consent of the lead algorithm architect. I sat back in my chair. The office was dark, save for the glow of my monitors and the light spilling out from under Bryce's door down the hall. I could hear muffled cheering. They were celebrating. They thought they had fixed the engine. They thought they had unclogged the pipe. They didn't realize they had just cut the main line. I took a screenshot. I saved the system logs. I exported the timestamp diff files showing exactly what code was changed and who changed it. User, Trevor admin override. Then, I opened my safe, a small, fireproof box under my desk. I took out the physical copy of my contract. I placed the printed logs on top of it. It was done. Legally, mathematically, and contractually, the intellectual property known as the Arcturus core logic no longer belonged to Arcturus Capital. It belonged to Naomi Adler. I felt a strange buzzing in my fingertips. It wasn't adrenaline, it was vindication. The next morning, the mood in the office was electric. Latency was down. The P&L was green. Bryce was strutting around the trading floor like he had personally invented money. See, Naomi? He sneered as he walked past my cubicle. Trevor got it done. Sometimes you have to break a few rules to make an omelet. You certainly broke something, Bryce, I said, offering him a tight, polite smile. We're ready for the pitch, he announced to the room. The Vantage Partners deal is a go. Ah, yes, the Vantage Partners deal. That was the ticking clock I hadn't mentioned yet. Bryce had been courting a massive institutional investor, Vantage Partners, for a $300 million capital injection. The entire pitch was based on the proprietary, unassailable advantage of the Arcturus technology. Bryce was going to sell them a stake in the engine. The engine he didn't own anymore. He was scheduling a due diligence meeting for next week. They would want to see the code architecture. They would want to see the IP assignment agreements. They would want to ensure that Arcturus actually owned the tech they were buying. I spent the rest of the day in a state of zen-like calm. I cleaned up my hard drive. I deleted personal files. I organized my documentation. At lunch, I went to the deli across the street and called my lawyer, a shark named Jessica, who made my old contract signer Henderson look like a golden retriever. It happened, I said into the phone, watching Bryce wave his arms through the glass window of the office building across the street. You have the logs? Jessica asked. Her voice was sharp, professional. I have the logs, the contract, and the timestamp diffs. They bypassed the security kernel last night, and they didn't ask for consent. They demanded I give them keys. I refused, and they hacked their own system. Beautiful, Jessica said, drafting the notice now. When do you want to drop the hammer? Not yet, I said. They have a pitch meeting with Vantage Partners next Wednesday. Let them dig the hole a little deeper. I want them to be standing at the altar before we object to the wedding. Cold, Jessica laughed. I love it. Hold tight. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Just be the ghost in the machine. I hung up and walked back into the building. The lobby felt different. The logo on the wall, Arcturus Capital, looked like a tombstone. I took the elevator up, listening to two junior analysts talking about how they were going to buy Porsches when the Vantage deal went through. Bryce is a genius, one of them said. I suppressed a laugh so hard it hurt my ribs. I walked back to my desk, opened a new terminal window, and typed a single command, tar czvf source backup final tar gz/core/logic. I was packing my bags, but I wasn't taking my clothes. I was taking the house. Corporate collapse is rarely a sudden event. It has a sound. It's the sound of whispered conversations in hallways and the sudden shutting of laptop lids when someone walks by. By Monday, the whispers had started. Mark, a mid-level compliance officer with perpetually tired eyes and a hairline that was retreating in surrender, stopped by my desk. Mark was one of the few people at Arcturus who actually read the regulations. He was also the only one who seemed to notice that while the P&L was up, the risk reports were looking weird. Naomi, he said, leaning against the fabric wall of my cubicle. He held a paper cup of tea like it was a source of warmth in a blizzard. Can I ask you a hypothetical? I love hypotheticals, Mark. They're like lies, but with plausible deniability. He didn't smile, if, hypothetically. The system flagged a critical security exception in the audit log, but the ticket was marked as resolved by an admin override. That would be a problem for the SOC2 audit, right? He knew, or at least he suspected. I swiveled my chair to face him. Mark, if the security exception was a bypass of the core kernel, it's not just a SOC2 problem. It's an existential problem. Trevor says it's a feature, Mark sighed. He says the new architecture requires open permissions to function. But I'm looking at the IP agreements for the Vantage deal. The warranty clause says we certify that our security meets industry standards. If we bypassed our own firewalls, then we're lying to the investors. I finished for him. Mark rubbed his face. I tried to tell Bryce. He told me to stop being a bureaucratic buzzkill. He said the tech is proprietary, so we set the standards. I looked at Mark. He was a good guy. He didn't deserve to be collateral damage. Mark, I said quietly, do you have access to the original employment contracts? From 5 years ago? Yeah, in the archives. Why? Go read Appendix D of my original architect agreement. Just read it. Don't tell anyone you read it. Just file it away in your brain. Mark frowned, confusion crinkling his forehead. Appendix D? Naomi, what's going on? Just read it, Mark. Maybe update your LinkedIn profile. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly and walked away. I had just handed him a life raft. Whether he used it was up to him. Meanwhile, the circus was in full swing. Bryce was in deal mode. The conference room was being prepped for the Vantage Partners meeting. They had catered expensive lunches. They had printed glossy brochures with diagrams of my algorithm, diagrams that were now technically inaccurate because of Trevor's butchery. I walked past the conference room and saw Bryce rehearsing his pitch to the mirror. We possess the most advanced, proprietary algorithmic engine on the street, he practiced, gesturing with a gold pen, owned wholly and exclusively by Arcturus. I stopped. I couldn't help myself. I leaned into the doorway. You might want to check the definitions of wholly and exclusively, Bryce, I said. He spun around. Annoyed, Naomi, I'm busy. Unless you're here to apologize for being a roadblock, get lost. I'm just admiring the confidence, I said. It takes a lot of guts to sell something you haven't stress-tested. The system is fine. Profits are up 12% since Friday. He adjusted his tie. You're just jealous because Trevor fixed in a week what you sat on for years. You're obsolete, Naomi. After this deal closes, well, let's just say we'll be reassessing the headcount. He was firing me. He was going to wait until the check cleared and then he was going to fire me. Good luck with the pitch, Bryce, I said. Make sure you spell everything correctly, especially the names on the deeds.